Baglia's research team in his department. She was on site here at ISB for over 240 hours. As she looks ahead at her career as a scientist, she certainly has done all the right things. And as I said, she respects the fact that she's standing on the work that is done before her. The facts on Julia. She has volunteered over 300 hours of her time to the Pacific Science Center as a counselor in training in 2011, and then again in 2012 as a Discovery Corps interpreter. She's an honor student in both science and math. In her spare time, if she has any, she plays the violin in the Seattle Youth Symphony and volunteers at the Fine Impressions Art Gallery here in Seattle. And I quote one of her teachers, because Julia is a senior in the high school at the International School, at the International School in Bellevue. I quote one of her teachers. In a class of excellent science students, she was the one who truly stood out as a leader, in spite of the fact that she's the youngest student in the group. Julie is a very special person, and it's a very special opportunity that we get to listen to her today. Please join me in introducing Miss Julia Ju.
We need Julia to look like a scientist.
That's great. This is fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Sabey. I'm so honored to speak to you all today. I would like to share with you how ISB exposed me to the world of real science and how this experience has made an impact on my passions and dreams for the future. Before significant exposure to scientific research, I had long harbored an interest in becoming like the scientists I read about in the news. The revolutionary figures clothed in white lab coats who explored the infinitesimal and alluringly complex through simple yet ingeniously effective experiments. However, through lack of exposure to scientific research, I imagined these scientists to be untouchable, higher-level beings who were meant only to be read about in textbooks. And I had initially convinced myself to be content with admiring them from afar. I was not confident that I could become an actual scientist. Little did I know that soon I would work among these brilliant scientists, perhaps a workstation or two away from a researcher mere steps away from revolutionary discovery. Little did I know that talking with these awe-inspiring scientists would humanize them, that while we may be a PhD degree apart, we were united by the passion for a common cause, to reduce global suffering and the spread of disease. I'd always been interested in medical and general science. My favorite class in school by far is biology, and my teacher, Dr. Lee Holt, a former neuroscientist herself, pushed me to excel. I volunteered at the Pacific Science Center, where I strove to spread my love for science by sowing the seeds of scientific inquiry in the minds of our young guests. It was here that I first met scientists as part of Portal to the Public, explaining their work to visitors. Talking to these scientists about their work was the inspirational fuel I had needed to pursue opportunities in science. More than anything, I wanted to work in a lab and apply textbook knowledge I learned at school to real-life scenarios. I scoured the internet for research opportunities and learned of the Systems Education Experiences program at ISB. As it turned out, my teacher, Dr. Holt, knew the program's coordinator, Ms. Claudia Ludwig, and enthusiastically encouraged all her students to apply. With Dr. Holt's support and with further inquiry into ISB's unique systems approach, I knew there was nowhere I would rather be this summer than at ISB. After weeks of wishing desperately on fallen eyelashes, I was met with good news. My friends laughed at me as I told my mother the news on the phone, jumping up and down and rambling uncontrollably, but the refusing didn't register at all in my mind. It was filled only with the fact that I would be spending an entire summer exploring the life of a scientist. I came into the internship exhilarated and passionate to bring the clinical prose of my biology textbook into actual science at ISB. Where my science classes and exposure to scientists planted the seed of scientific inquiry, ISB is truly where the flower of my passion for research bloomed to fruition. To help Dr. Yongjo in the Hood Lab with his project of finding proteins that could accurately indicate for preterm labor, I learned to culture cells and to analyze the protein concentrations of our placental samples. Day after day, I saw the proliferation of life blooming from the results of my actions, and toward the end of the internship, I experienced the thrilling triumph of scientific discovery as we identified 2 viable candidates among our many preterm biomarkers. I developed a deep attachment to the work I was doing, knowing that every gel I ran, every plate I cultured, would culminate in a product that would actually matter to actual women. This hands-on learning experience helped me to understand how the science I learned in school can be applied to a real-world science lab. Meanwhile, not only did my internship instill in me a greater interest in biology by teaching me the different techniques that I would need to learn, but it also exposed me to the exciting fusion of biology and technology. Looking down at the street during lunch breaks, I saw an interesting intermingling of people representing different sides of emerging technology. There were scientists from ISB who represented big data, which will undoubtedly provide for more efficiency in our medical future. And there were employees from Amazon who represented the technical of online consumerism, all together in the streets of downtown Seattle. Seeing the blurred distinctions between the science and technology is my very own feat. I was proud to be a very scientist. I found in the course of my summer internship, I had grown confident that I was indeed becoming a scientist. My generation has the unfortunate but undeserved reputation of being apathetic to science offering discovery. But when all kids maybe such as suicide by ISP, how can interested not get excited confident for offering kids who are interested in science and every constantly scattered opportunities for confidence are in my inward. And with the evidence I gained from the internship, science with the reality of scientific kids accessible that was excited to show anyone like me science with a passion. And you guys can become as all of those.